All right, I'm hoping that the audio fixes the problem. Let me see. All right, okay, we good. We're good. Let me go back to my regular microphone. All right, I'll have to roll with this. For some reason, it's not working, so we have to roll with the punches. Thank you guys for letting me know about the sound. I had no idea. Microphone was working here, but just because it's working right here in the microphone doesn't mean that it's working through the computer. So let me rehash really quickly. Jerry West passed away, 86 years old. Uh, Peace and blessings. Duas go out to his family. Also, I talked about the shout out show. We're going to be including some content from another show that I'm producing called Once Upon a Time Fill in the Blank. So you'll be able to see some of that content. The other thing was talking about last week's show, Help, White America Needs a Black Savior. And let me rehash what I said earlier. While the sound was down, I apologize. Was this whole idea that, and we have to be very aware and open in our conversations with one another, the fact that white America has this whole idea that Black American people of color do not have ownership of their own time. They do not have ownership of their own time. And what I mean by that is that people feel free to infringe upon our time, whether it's through their politics, whether it's through their lawmaking, whether it's through racism, whether it's through business and life forces. They have always felt that they can't infringe on their own time. So imagine that you're dressed up and you and your wife or significant other are dressed up, getting ready to go out to a fabulous play or a jazz show or opera. You're dressed to the nines and you've got a babysitter watching the little ones, and you pull out your driveway and somebody just comes up and goes, "Hey, I don't feel like watching my white baby. Please watch my white baby. We'll be back whenever. And don't leave. Watch the white baby." They tell you to do it. And that has been the expectations on people of color for years. That somehow, some way, even when we were under legal pressure or legal denial, that somehow we would make a way, we would fashion a way for this thing to make sense in our own reality. And what's happening is people are not doing it. And the main reason they're not doing it, and the main reason they're not doing it is because they're seeing it in themselves. So let me get to the crux of the show, which is funny thoughts on American dysfunction. The funny thing about American dysfunction, particularly my American white supremacist dysfunction in the United States, always works with the fact that they don't realize that they're dysfunctional. They're the last ones to realize it. That the things they try to do, that all the things they try to stop with black people in terms of art, culture, laws, they wind up doing. So it's whether it's assuming rap music, whether it's assuming jazz or blues. White people for a long time, white people legitimately had a claim to the blues. Let me explain myself. White people had a legitimate claim to the blues. I'm talking about underclass white people who were dirt poor. The problem is you couldn't put dirt poor white people out here because the Negro would be like, damn, he doing bad too. He doing worse than me. Because the black man looks at the white guy going, damn, he doing worse than me. And he's got opportunities. See, black people go, I don't have any opportunities. I'm gonna make opportunities. I'm gonna make a way. I'm gonna figure out how to invent stuff like a doorknob, like a stoplight, all of these, like a golf tee. We're gonna figure out all of these things without the help of innovation and support. And of course, general understanding and acceptance of my intelligence. The funny thing is, and I'm not being wrong. I'm not being mean. A majority of white people who present themselves as superior to me or a group of people have, upon examination, turned out to be some of the dumbest people in the world. Case in point, they would put people in positions who, for no other word, they know they're not qualified for positions. I've been in job situations. We worked and they promoted somebody and from the job who didn't have the skills, who didn't have the talent. But you had to put them in there because you got to keep the natives down. Now the funny part is we would sit back. First we get mad, but then we sit back, and we would sometimes stick around for the other shoe to fall. We stick around for the train wreck, and then after the train wreck, we would either renegotiate what we're being paid for money, or we would quit altogether and watch the company go down. Let me tell you something about American dysfunction. A lot of money has gone into making sure that minorities and oppressed people are somehow abnormal, are somehow not regular. Well, let me throw this out to you. Poverty is not normal. Being broke is not acceptable. Bad education is not the norm. Most of the time, when you see people in these situations, they're working to get above those circumstances. They're working to find different type of solutions to these particular circumstances. The thing that tickles me is that American white exceptionalism has not changed. Now you have white religious nationalism, yet white Christian nationalism, which is to say, at some point in time, Jesus don't like niggas. That's what it is. Jesus don't like niggas. Jesus like the poor. Jesus like women. Jesus like the blind, but Jesus did not like niggas. That's what it is. It's in one of the books. It's a book called No Negroes in the Bible. It's a book called No Negroes in the Bible. And under that book, Jesus doesn't say anything. He said, all you white people fill it out and it'll be gospel. Damn, that's the way it feels. Okay, let me throw this out to you too. Let me show you how America works. Hunter Biden went to trial. His trial lasted a Minnesota minute. He was found guilty of possession of a crack, a firearm, all these found guilty. It was quick. Donald Trump had how much evidence against him? We had to wait for a verdict. That verdict was quick. You know why? Because there's certain people who are not with that process, that if they are moved and they are inspired, they are instructed to follow your logic and your rationale and your reason, then you can come to an understandable, acceptable conclusion, which they did. The funny part is people cannot accept the conclusion now. People cannot accept that a former president is a sexual predator. They cannot accept, and now listen to me, they can't accept that the president is a sexual predator. They can't accept that the president is a liar. They can't accept that the president is a criminal and a convicted felon. If they can't accept it, this is what they do. They say, then it doesn't exist. Then it doesn't exist. Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever had to deal with law enforcement, even if it's a traffic ticket, a speeding ticket, one of the things that cannot happen in this space is when you're talking to a police officer and says, you ran that stop sign, you cannot look at that police officer with a straight face and go, no, I didn't. He goes, yes, you did. You go, no, I didn't. He goes, why do you say that? You can't go because there's no stop sign. There's no stop sign. There's no road. There's no speedometer. Hell, I don't even see you. You can't do that. But American dysfunction is rare. If you get a chance to go outside of the country, what's going to happen is you're going to meet real people. You're going to meet real people. And then when I say real people, go to the people who are considered third world. And he's backward little countries, second world, third world. Go to these people, go to these places, and they'll tell you why they're that way, because most of them have been colonized. And this level of dysfunction has permeated for years. When I say permeated, I mean permeated for years. It is inbred. It is so many different things that it becomes normal. So now we have a situation in the United States where things become normal. People are in situations, this is deep. People are in situations where I told you about how people of color are expected to somehow subsume other people's realities. Case in point. And we got Sister Satana here today. How you doing, Sister Satana? Assalamu alaikum. We're gonna bring her in. I'm bringing my sister in. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, you gotta take your mute off.
There we go. All right.
There you go. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Glad to see you, sister. So I'm talking about funny thoughts on American dysfunction.
Okay.
And the example I gave, of course, was Hunter Biden, how the brevity of his court case, right? They presented evidence. This is as close to a regular court case as you're going to get. somebody said, if he wasn't the president, do you think he'd get treated? They were like, no, they found him guilty. Gun,
Hmm.
addiction, guilty. That's pretty much it. He may get. I'm not saying he's going to go to jail. I think he might even do some time. To be honest, I think he'll do some time because he lied. That's the thing. You can have
Okay.
these issues, but you can't lie
Hmm.
about it. And they'll
Okay.
ask you because they know they got you in a lie. You're going to do some time. This is the whole thing about Trump too. People are like, will Trump go to jail? He lied 34 times on paper, or just on
Right.
paper. Forget about how
Right.
many times he lied overall.
Right.
But my point, Sister Tana, is this: that African Americans, in terms of American dysfunction, African Americans, people of color, other minorities. I hope I'm leaving anybody out, but African Americans, as a consensus, have always been um, put in a place where it's just assumed that we're going to carry other people's dysfunction.
Hmm.
Right? When you talk about a person says, "I'm not racist," and I'm like, "Well, how do you know? Because you don't know what the burden is."
Right.
Something that you could say, something you could do in the right hands or a particular situation can result in action. The whole phenomenon of a Karen is some white woman in distress saying a black man did it, right?
Hmm.
I'm not racist, but the American dysfunction is we have to create spaces for believability for these people. And I'm like, it's getting to a point now where it's really dangerous because American dysfunction is now visiting white people. The same dysfunction, like black people have learned to get out of the way.
Hmm.
This may
Yeah.
be an election period where we really don't go out and vote because who's the winner?
Right.
We
Right.
go with Trump, whether you go with Biden, literally who's the winner? This is the first time,
Right.
it's like I said, you got two
Hmm.
white men nobody likes, and
True.
they're
True.
virtually ineffective across the board. You got one who trying to stay out of jail, he's trying to pardon himself, and he's telling you, "I'm going to take revenge." It's not even a political policy. He has no planks on his policy, if you will. Then you have Biden, who is generally ineffective, um, generally effective, very, very
Very.
pro. I hate to say pro Israel, but
Hmm.
definitely inclined to listen to Israeli argument to the detriment and the denial of the reality that he sees around him. But I talked about this last week, and I think you were there. And I read this in Sirikoff every Friday. Every Friday I can read. I'm not saying I read every Friday. I try. That's my intention. There's a quote in the Quran. I think it's probably in Sirikoff. I think it's one of the dopest things I ever read since I actually became Muslim. And there's a space where he talks about uh, everybody kneeling down to Adam, everybody except Iblis. And
Hmm.
Allah gives this really, really detailed joint, like you didn't kneel down. And he's like, yo, he talks about, I didn't take the help of Satan and his helpers in creation. I didn't ask their help in the creation of themselves. And he just says, um, almost like be careful, mindful of misleaders who present themselves as helpers.
Right. Right.
And I
That
think
is the
that's where
message.
we've gotten. We've been sounding the alarms as African Americans for years about ineffective politics and politicians, sounding the alarm for years. But now there is this thing, and I think I alluded to it a little bit last week. I was like, as African Americans in this country, Native Americans also, and the early Jews. Okay, let's throw this out. We were forced to take the help of misleaders. We were forced to actually say, this is help. We were forced to say, yeah, you're going to do right do right by me. You're not going to do right by me. I remember I wrote a joke one time about racial hatred bloopers. Like there has to be a blooper reel. Like every instance of racial hatred can't just come off smoothly, right? Like they probably went to the house to burn a cross, and they were all ready, and then found out the person they're going to burn a cross in front of the house, the person wasn't home. So the joke is they're not home. They're trying to scare him. They're like, get out here. But little kids like, yo, Mr. Leroy ain't here. He works on Tuesdays. Y'all gonna have to come back on Tuesday. He worked Tuesday. I thought y'all knew. And then the other part of it is somebody calls and goes, the Klan is outside Leroy's house. I'm calling the
Hmm.
sheriff. And then the guy in the hood lives up in the hood and goes, hello, sheriff. But this
Yeah.
is American dysfunction at its best. And I think the thing is, we've been sitting at the bottom of the well for so long that screaming, protesting, boycotting has been normalized. That I'm always a little blah about protests these days.
Mm.
And let me give a shout out to Mama Son. Thanks for tuning in. Satana, you're gonna love this one. So
What's
they
that?
put out one of the Facebook channels, our Facebook Live channel.
They cut out. What's that?
One of our Facebook Live channels. So we only have two Facebooks that are live. So our Facebook Live, where people see us, there was a note as of June 10th
Mm-hmm.
that we no longer have it.
Users don't have it, or we don't have it.
We can't use the platform. And they said, the criteria, you had to have had the account 60 days. We got that. You got to have 100 people. I'm like, we got that. It's like all of a sudden, it's like try back in a couple of weeks.
I'll take a look at it.
Now, normally I would go, you'd be like, oh my gosh. But now I'm like, but that's what they do. That's what they do. In this whole context of social media and things like that, it's like addiction. I get you hooked. And the first thing is when you say, this is really helpful, I snatch it away from you. I remember when Honorable Minister Lou Farrakhan had his Facebook page and they snatched it. Do you remember that?
I do. There was him and Riza Islam. There were a couple of people. Yeah,
Yeah, they
that
put a couple of
they
people.
pulled their Instagram pages.
And I remember watching
Yeah.
Mr. Farrakhan on a stage. This is our guy, right? This is one of our dudes having to talk about why they take my Facebook page. Why they take my like? It's like wow. And I think my point is, I made an example of American dysfunction. It's like we always have to make. The funny part is when somebody creates, and you can jump anytime. When somebody creates the worst image of you to the point that you don't recognize it, like a Birth of a Nation. I couldn't have been a free slave watching Birth of a Nation. I'd have thrown up. I throw up now watching that thing.
The original one.
The original is horrible.
Yeah.
When you watch,
Yeah.
this thing is mass media present the worst possible. Hear me now. The worst possible image of you.
Yeah.
You have no recourse. Like I can't go out and make a movie. Like brothers in that time, they couldn't go out and finance movies. Misha and guys like that. It was years before they could do it, and they wouldn't even be able to produce the kind of content to reject what was being put out there. I'm like, this is the worst version of you. And you think about, oh, it's just a Birth of a Nation. No, this is a prototype. They've shown us the worst. If you watch social media, they're showing us the worst of us for as soon as it came into print.
Sure, but I think the platform has also shown the worst of everyone, right?
Yeah.
And this the whole media has changed so much, right? So I think I was just having this conversation with my dad, right? It's like no one even gets papers, physical papers anymore, right? Because the whole construct of media has changed, and no one even believes believes national television, right? Whether it's here in the US or other countries, right? So this social media platform, and I remember when it was a few years ago, I think it was in Egypt. I think Egypt was one of the first countries that we really saw that they took control of Twitter and they got the on the ground news out about what was going on, right? So it wasn't a reliance on this the standardized news, because no one believed it, right? They didn't think that they were going to have a fair representation of telling being objective, right? Of telling the truth, right?
I was talking to
So,
Mehdi Hassan. He had a show on MSNBC, right? And he wound up not renewing his contract, leaving MSNBC because his comments, I strongly believe, I can be wrong, but his comments about Palestine were just dead on. And I think he begins to teeter and really take the lid off of it because he's going to talk about American history. That this treatment of what you're seeing in Palestine is a condensed version of the history of oppression of African American peoples, Latin American peoples, wherever colonization went. This is the thing that followed. So you're talking about like the ICC putting out arrest warrants for Netanyahu and several of his crew in the United States. Is we're gonna ban you from doing that. And the issue is, if you put out arrest warrants for them, they got to put out arrest warrants for you. You've broken certain things about resettlement. We're not even talking about this. We're just talking about the bombs going. We're not even talking about resettlement that happened. You legitimately cannot move masses of people for your own purposes. We don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. African American slave trade says you can't do that anymore. International human trafficking says you can't do that anymore, but they did it. And so it's just almost like a blank page. Like, I don't know. I'm like a lot of people. Look, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't even know if these two dudes are healthy enough to make it to the finish line for the 2024 elections. I literally, if somebody said Trump returned to his maker or Biden returns, I would not be surprised. These are not like Jerry West dudes that are in shape and really deal with people on a very special level. And I talked about Jerry West, basketball great, Hall of Famer. And I said the thing about him, what you'll find more and more is like his love and affinity for African American basketball players, but it's also African American people. He grows up poor in West Virginia. When he comes in the league, he gravitates to people who've been poor, gone through some things. He had the best rapport with African American basketball players than I can ever think of, right? But we're not turning that out anymore. We don't have that type of esprit de corps nor inspiration initiative that people actually look at. Historically, these have been the problems, and they sweep them on the rug. Like the funny thing about American dysfunction, to me, the funniest thing is if you're astute, you can literally get out of the way and watch two destructive folks really get together and try and do something positive. Literally, it's like a train wreck. You can literally sit and watch a train wreck. African Americans are the one to go, hey, you two trains on the same track, slow down, da 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 da. But I think we're getting to a point as a community, we're going to sit back and let this train wreck happen because we need the reset. It's like we're hungry for the reset. We're not going to be able to give it to you because you're not listening to us. They don't listen to us, but they listen to us. I think that's the thing that's scary. Remember when remember Tipper Gore and everybody and Eleanor Holmes Norton, smashing up hip hop records. Remember that? They were responsible for the warning labels on
yes,
albums,
okay, yes.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They were responsible for the warning labels on albums, and everybody got a warning label. So NWA got a warning label. I even think Public Enemy got a warning label, and I'm like, it's freaking Public Enemy. It's not NWA. It's Public Enemy. But they found that the ideas that Public Enemy was talking about are dangerous. And I'm like, you have to look at the fact that there's a big percentage of consumption of hip hop music is what? White kids in the suburbs.
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
So I guess it's not even asking the questions like, if you're in a space where you deny that kind of reality, I'm like, at some point in time, it's either somebody's going to go on the side and go, you know what, this is the reality, or they're going to swallow it. And I think that's the thing. They're going to swallow it. And so while we don't have, we had that, now we had an Eminem. Why do we like Eminem? Because Eminem, Eminem didn't. To me, he didn't rap black. He just rap. I'm from Detroit. I'm this white kid from Detroit, right? He never tried to be like I'm trying to be black, and so we listen to him, right?
Made a comeback. So
Huh?
he made a comeback. His
Yeah.
new album out.
I'm
And
like
it's
he is doing him, right? But then you think of Vanilla Ice and some of these folks. Remember Snow, Informer Snow with the fake Jamaican accent.
yeah, I think that Vanilla Ice was kind of a plant.
I
He
mean,
was
I'm
a
like,
bit too.
yo, I was like, we. So here's my solution, Satana. I know we've been on long. I am going to make a rap record just for white kids on the suburbs. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a white record. I'm going to talk about um, Bob and Michelle and summer homes and things like that. Nothing about my reality. I'm going to talk. I'm going to talk 401k plans, legacy to get into college. I'm going to talk about all that stuff. Right? You laughing? I'm a multi-millionaire. I'm saying here in the shout out show. I'm gonna rap like a white dad, and I'm gonna talk about finding fentanyl in the room. I'm gonna
Mm,
I'm gonna talk
yeah,
about
that's real.
um,
Right?
I'm gonna talk about my son and my daughter dating black people with reputable with questionable reputations. That's what I'm gonna do, and then I'm writing a long book about how Trump actually is Jesus, revisited, and I'm gonna do it all. But everybody, you're hearing all these things, but the thing that it starts with to make this all happen is I have to 100% sell my soul to the devil. There you go.
There you go.
Once I do that, no problem.
All
I'm gonna be a hit. Well,
right.
look, I am not gonna hold you, people. We got some people on Instagram. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me see. I guess I can go up. Oh, my cousin Ibrahim Moss. What's going on, brother? So Farron, only Naja, Hamza, Ibrahim, Lukman Bey, Tar 33. What's up? Walaikum assalam to the Parakatu Lorna, Limitless Canada, Dr. Mariam Durrani, Catherine Lee, Ahmad, this okay, Fatih and Salman. This is how I know, Satana, that something is wrong. This is how I know something is wrong on the shout out show. I'm gonna give you names. All of a sudden, you know who we're missing, right? Right, we know who we're missing. We're missing our family from Canada. We're missing our family. Reason, I think she's still out of town. Um, we're missing the staples. We're missing Brother Bilal, Sister Sonia Salahuddin. We're missing all these people. Altaf, Altaf just popped in. Yeah, we're missing Altaf. Like I said, we got we got my mom, but we're missing people. Brother Eric from South Carolina. We're missing all these people. And I attribute that to the dysfunction of Facebook. If my mother wasn't on here, I probably cussed Facebook out because I knew they were going to do something like this. I absolutely had it in my bones they were going to do something like this. So let me get ready to pop out here. Everybody, thank you so much. Apologies for the sound issues at the beginning. I don't know what's going on because my microphone is working, but all of a sudden it wasn't working through this StreamYard. So forgive me about that. Sister Satana, we gave you a nice shout out in the beginning. People, I'm going to tell you guys something. Sister Satana is on right now, and I said, we don't pull in big sponsors for this show. We don't ask anybody for money. We didn't do that. We had some sponsors over the years, and we do it. We've been doing it since 2024. And I said there are going to be some changes. I'm going to be introducing some other content on the show. But what I wanted to say while I have everybody here who's listening is I just want to say thank you. Sister Satana, while you weren't here, I just want to thank you personally for being a day one ride or die, making sure this show gets up and down. And it's funny because sometimes you can be doing this show and you're going, well, it's only a certain amount of people or da da da. And then you'll be out someplace in Dallas or DC or New York or Australia and Canada, and people go, man, I really like the Shout Out show. And you just don't know. All right. So I'm going to get out of here, Sister Satana. Wait a minute. She said private shadow in a minute. 2020. I thought I said 2020, Sister Satana. We've been rocking since 2020. All right. That's why she's on the show. All right. We've been rocking since 2020. Listen, I appreciate all of you. Inshallah, we'll get this thing worked out with Facebook. If you're out there and all of a sudden we're not on the Facebook channel, you know we're on Wednesdays, Eastern Time, 6 to 6:30-ish, Central 5 to 5:30-ish, Western Coast 3 to 3:30-ish. So try and find us on Facebook someplace because I just checked it out today, and believe me, I didn't know this was coming down the pike, but it's coming down the pike and we have to adapt. All right. Sister Satana, why don't you take us out of here? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you guys next Wednesday.